Hello, Elisabeth Mack. It's Teepa. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you, Teepa, for the invitation. And I'm excited to be here with you today.
Oh, we are very excited to have you here. So, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do first, just sort of that current state of things.
Okay, well, great. To set the stage, I'm Elisabeth Mack. I'm the founder and CEO of Holistic Caring, based here in San Diego, California. I have been an RN for 34 years, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. Spent my first 10 years in the hospital. And then in 1996,
Elisabeth, that's really funny. It sounds like, you were in the hospital for 10 years. And it's like, oh my, if I missed the nurse part, that would be sort of like a weird.
Yeah, I was providing patient care, not receiving it, thank goodness. And then in 1996, I finished my MBA in healthcare administration. I always knew I needed to be on a bigger plane rather than just providing the direct care. And so I spent the next 20 years in an insurance company between operations and then eventually sales. And my last corporate job was the sales manager for Anthem Blue Cross for the county of San Diego. So I was managing all the employee benefits through brokers and helping them do deals and implement Obamacare and all of those good things. And what happened was at the very end of 2014, Christmas break, I was taking a bike ride and I crashed my bicycle. And I went out on leave to have surgery. And a couple of weeks after that, I was at my chiropractor's office and she said, why don't you have Denise work out your post-surgical shoulder? And that was her medical massage therapist. And she was using CBD in the oil. And I said, hey, what is this? It smells funny. And she said, it's cannabis. And I said, why are you putting cannabis on me? And, I was pretty straight-laced at the time. And she said, well, it's going to help the inflammation and help you get back to your pre-surgical arm faster and reduce some of the pain. And I said, okay, sign me up and tell me more. And this woman introduced me to the endocannabinoid system and why cannabis works. And I literally went home that day to the library, checked out all of these books I could find because I was out on leave and I started reading these things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I want to try this. And next thing you know, I'm getting some CBD from her internally, tinctures and flash dried capsules. And I started to take it and I felt better. And I was like, I don't need as many Motrin. I don't need as many Flexeril. I'm not in pain. And I'm like, wow, this is something I want to do. And I literally did not go back to Anthem. I just said, I'm taking some time off. I'm going to heal my body, mind, and soul. Because I had a lot of things going on. I was recently widowed right before that. So I went on a healing journey to heal myself and to study this. And I researched everything I could possibly find about cannabis and CBD as medicine and started to apply this, started to network to all of these different groups that were burgeoning up in San Diego in 2015. And what I found was people are making medicines, people are selling medicines, but nobody's interpreting this for patients. And I was at that time on a dozen different pharmaceuticals. And I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. And as I was taking CBD more long-term and started to microdose THC, I got my card and went into the system. And I was like, I learned how to heal myself. And by the end of that year, I was off all the medicines. And I'm like, if I can do this for myself, I have to heal other people. And that is how I formed Holistic Caring.
Wow. Yeah. So first a nurse and a very caring nurse, then unfortunately a patient, not by choice, but by accident, and then being an observant patient and a patient advocate for yourself, realizing, this is working a lot better for me with fewer side effects. And I'm liking the outcome a whole lot better and getting more and more nurse-like again, in that wanting to be really knowledgeable about what you were doing for your body and your brain and your wellness and your health. And then taking that final step of saying, you know what, I need to go back to be a nurse now with this new knowledge set. And this is a whole new knowledge set for you. So it started for you with pain management.
Yes.
And it started for you really with the part of cannabis that is probably, for most people, the part they don't know about. It's the part that nobody thinks about. It's not the brownies that make you go, wow, that is not what it is. And so for many people who are unfamiliar with cannabis, tell us a little bit about the elements of cannabis that are important for people to understand. What's like very psychoactive to the place where that's what everybody thinks of when they think of cannabis or weed, and what's about other variations on that theme? Because I think people have some myths and misunderstandings.
Oh, completely, Teepa. We have had this this medicine prohibited for the last 100 years, right? And so if you go back to the 1920s, we had cannabis extracts in all of the pharmacies. From 1854, it was first entered into the U.S. dispensatory, and then there were like the companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, some of these early pharmaceuticals, Parker Davis, Eli Lilly, all of them had cannabis extracts at the turn of the century. And then in the 1920s, DuPont and other pharmaceutical companies were making the single molecule pharmaceuticals, and most people had started migrating over to the pills because they were easier to standardize. And replicate and duplicate and consistent and reliable. And what happened was that literally this was a racial issue. And so in the 20s and 30s, we had a lot of xenophobia going on. The black and brown in the southern half of the United States, Mexicans, immigrants from the islands, the jazz musicians down in the south, all of them still were using cannabis. They were smoking it. They were using extracts. They were using topicals. They were using other different ways to use cannabis. And literally, there were people that were prohibiting alcohol, and they just shifted all of those resources to prohibit cannabis, calling it marijuana, demonizing it, and literally just booting it out of the pharmacopoeia and the U.S. Dispensatories. 1937, we passed the Marijuana Tax Act, and they told us with reefer madness that, if you smoke this, you're going to go insane, and that black people that use it think they're as good as white people. Literally, if you studied some of the articles and Harry Anslinger, the early everything that happened with cannabis, you'll start to understand the bigger picture. But it's never been an evil weed. It's never been something that is dangerous, but it is something that we need to understand and to control and to properly use as medicine, rather than just the psychoactive substance that people think of when they think about cannabis.
Yeah. So the other thing I know, Elisabeth, about that zone is that that's also where opiates, we used to use, people used to put them in all kinds of things, including Coca-Cola and those kinds of things. But then was there a similar kind of thing like this? The problem with marijuana, it's the gateway drug. This was, of course, that whole phenomena that was going on of just say no to drugs. So you had to of course, that was a little later, but the same concept idea. So are those also related to that history? I'm just, because it's in that use of cannabis is in the categorization with these are forbidden drugs, these are serious, but the opiates they're very different. But can you talk about how they got so closely associated?
If we continue from 1937, once the Marijuana Tax Act happened, and then it basically was eradicated, and hemp was out of our food supply, out of the agriculture, out of the entire supply chain. When you think about that, by 1941, the animals were no longer grazing on it, and we started to develop autism. We started to develop neurodegenerative conditions. We started to develop Parkinson's and MS, and those things started to pop up when we eradicated hemp from the food supply. So that's a whole nother thing. But then what happened in 1970, who was president? Richard Nixon, right? Who did he not like? Hippies. They were protesting the war. And he couldn't necessarily jail them for that. But if he demonized what they were smoking and what they enjoyed, now he could, right? And so, and the same thing with heroin. Some of the Black populations were using that at that time, and he wanted to demonize both. And this is all in Wikipedia and some of these other historical things. If you can take away the substances these people want and put them in jail. So that's when he created the Controlled Substance Act, 1970. And cannabis was put into Schedule 1. What does Schedule 1 mean? No medical benefits, highly addictive and abusive and dangerous. So heroin, PCP, LSD, those are all in Schedule 1, and they belong there. But cannabis is a multimodal medicine that people just don't understand. And so then, the 1970 went into the 1980s, and that's when Ronald Reagan had the whole DARE campaign and just say no. And it's been like this ever since. And people
Except don't say no to alcohol.
Yeah.
I would say yes to cigarettes and alcohol. We'll just control those, but anything else. I mean, and I'm not being facetious. I'm actually the only self-administered pain medication that is easy to access, that is not considered a medication, is alcohol.
Right.
In many circles. I mean, that's the one that everybody's familiar with. It dulls emotional pain. It dulls physical pain. It's been used as an anesthetic. I mean, it can knock you down, knock you out, make you not care. So alcohol has, and there was a whole lobby. I mean, there's a history of alcohol as well, sustaining, and glucose, I mean, sugar and alcohol. And yet cigarettes, nicotine and those kinds of things, for the longest time, they were allowed, whereas cannabis is in this other category. So this whole phenomena of what do you get out of cigarettes? What's the benefit? And
well, it relaxes you, right? But when you think about, okay, if we go there, nicotine and cigarettes kill how many people a year? 480,000 people every year. If you go to the CDC.gov statistics, alcohol kills 88,000 people every year. Guess how many cannabis directly kills? 0. There are no cannabinoid receptors in the brainstem, so it's impossible to overdose. You can get really uncomfortable if you have too much, but you're not going to die. You're not going to stop breathing. You're not going to have any of those fatal interactions, because it just can't happen. But if we play this forward into the 1990s and the evolution of the opiates and OxyContin and all of the years that we were lied to saying these are not addictive, you can take as much as you want. The surgery I had on my shoulder was the third. I had my first shoulder surgery in 1994, and they gave me Vicodin, and it didn't work. They took an inch of my clavicle out. It grew back wrong. I had internal rotation. I've still got pinched nerves in my neck, and they wanted me to take the Vicodin every day. And I'm like, I can't function on this. And that's how I ended up taking 2,000 milligrams of Motrin every day for 25 years. And now I haven't had a Motrin in I don't know how many days. But it's like we have to have a civilized conversation where everything is on the table and discussed openly with education rather than bias.
Well, this is exciting. And what I'm really excited about is there's consultation, there's support, there's education, and it's all on one website. You are there, you're providing it, you have others that are working with you. And when folks need support, they should go to www.holisticcaring.com. Yes?
Yes, thank you. And you know what? I look, I'm somebody that sees things in the big picture. I'm quite the visionary, right? That's why I knew I needed to get my MBA back in 1994. I couldn't just stay. I'm a systems builder, and spending 20 years in health plans, I know what I'm building is really like an HMO. So I'm doing the guidance and the support. I'm doing the education and the curriculum and the consultations. I've got 5 nurses doing patient care with me, and we can build up our telehealth even more. I'm the treasurer of the American Cannabis Nurses Association, so I can onboard as many nurses as we have as we grow. There are 1,500 of them that would love to play more of a part in this, to shepherd patients through. And to give them the education. And then the CBD Marketplace on our website has the CBD that actually meets flow criteria: flower-derived, lab-tested, organic, and whole plant. There's so much crap on the market that I want to give people the access to something that you can do it right, and then you can have efficacy. People using a CBD isolate versus whole plant are going to have more side effects and less effects. And then using a good whole plant medicine. So educating people about every single part of this needs to happen. And the dispensaries, they're shooting fish in a barrel with recreational adult use access. They're not doing clinical medicine. They're not asking about drug interactions. They're not teaching anybody anything. So Holistic Caring has to do this. And it is my sole contract, I believe, to do what I'm doing.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teepa's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.